In this video, I turned my small home studio into a mini music venue. Hello, I'm Gavin Hoey and you're watching Adorama TV, brought to you by Adorama, the camera store that's got everything for us photographers, and today you join me back in my small home studio. Except this is actually going to be a mini music venue, as I'm going to take some pictures that look like they were taken on a small stage in a pub or bar. Now, to make this happen, I thought I'd black out this end of my studio, and honestly, I thought it would look better than it's come out. But it doesn't matter, because with a bit of careful lighting and lots of fast dissipating smoke, we're going to hide this really well. For lighting, there's some fantastic stage lighting kits out there. I haven't got any of those, but what I do have is my Evolve 200s and Flashpoint Speedlights. Now, the reason I'm going to use flash is they are incredibly bright, which means I can shoot at lower ISOs, but moreover, I actually already own these. I don't need to get anything special. However, stage lights have one advantage: they move around and do effects. These don't. So what I'm actually going to do is do 3 different setups using everything from just a single speed light to all of my lights. So let's get some light set, let's get a performer in, and let's get shooting. So to help me out today, I've got the amazing Iffy. Iffy is a grime artist, and he's going to be performing in my mini music venue. Now, to start with, we're going to kick off with a single light, just a speed light. And the speed light is going to go right here behind Iffy, pointing at the back of his head. Now, there's a couple of reasons for doing this. Firstly, it should give us a really great lighting effect. But also, if the light is coming in this way, then the light isn't going to illuminate my rather dodgy looking blacked out area back here. Now, the only downside with having a single light facing towards the camera is if Iffy's facing me, then all I'm going to see is just a silhouette of the front of his face, and it's all going to be black and really not work. So the solution is, Iffy, your audience is out there. Okay, let's take a test shot and see how this looks. Okay, we're going to do a single test shot first of all. As you can see, it looks okay. It doesn't look spectacular. So to make this amazing, we need the secret ingredient. And the secret ingredient is Sam on the smoke machine. So she's going to put some smoke behind Iffy, but in front of the light. And that's going to do a couple of things. It's going to make the light spread out much further, but it's also going to reduce some control, because smoke does all sorts of weird things. So be prepared to adjust your shooting as the smoke changes in the room. Right, let's get this warmed up. Let's get Iffy some music and let's get shooting. I'm about catch me Nordic, Swede, not den. Imran head to toe and denim. Hang tight, Emma and then. Contra Prosecco and then. Fortune cookies and then. I'm about trust. I'm about. The exposures on these I'm doing by eye rather than metering. If it looks right, it is right. So all that smoke is cleared and we're ready for the second setup. Now, this is either a 2-light or a 3-light setup, depending on the look you want to achieve. Now, I'm going to start with a 2-light setup, and they are back here. 2 Evolve 200s. Both of them have a grid and a red gel. The red gel is there for a little bit of color, and the grid is a bit of direction. Once again, I want to try and avoid getting light spilling onto this background and illuminating it, because it's not that good. Let's have a look and see how this looks. Again, we'll take a picture without any smoke. So whilst that looks really dramatic, it does have a couple of problems. First of all, it's a very strong red colour, and it's coming from behind, so there's really no light on Iffy's face. Now, to solve both those problems, I'm going to use a third Evolve 200. This time, it's got a standard reflector and another grid. Now, the grid is there so I can push light forwards, but try and avoid it spilling onto the background. It's white light, there's no gels here, but I need to try and make sure that this light actually reaches Iffy. It's going to go really high, because the higher I can put it, the more down I can direct it, and the more away from the background it will fall. But I have to ask Iffy a question. Iffy, if you look at that light, can you see through the grid and see the light?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so from Iffy's point of view, if he can see the light can see him, and we're good to go. Let's have a look at this. That just adds a little bit of balance back to the lights, and I think that looks really good. Once again, the thing that's missing from this is some smoke. So let's get some smoke into the scene, let's get some music running, let's take some more pictures. Look at this mug. God, mate, I want to know what he done. Lest we forget, and let's face it, there's no depth in your rep. Don't let them freestyles get to your head. Them online PRs will make you the next best thing. You want to get views in the thousands? Did you even do any groundwork? Are you in the studio for hours? Are you out moving the albums?
catalogs, old school index.
So for the third and final setup, I've gone all out with literally all of my Evolve 200s. So this is a 5-light setup. So I've got 2 Evolve 200s down here. They're the same ones that were up high, but now they're lower down. These should add a little bit more light down to this lower area of the shop where it was a little bit sort of missing in the previous 3-light setup. To fill in the top, I've got 2 Evolve 200s up here. Now, these have the standard reflector, and they've got that for a couple of reasons. The first one is it will give a much wider flood of light, and the second reason is it comes with the optional grid and gel kit. Now I'm just going to use the gels, and I've got the blue gels in here. I've got blue gels from the Evolve 200s down at the bottom as well. They're not quite the same tone of blue, and I think that adds a little bit. But I'm going to be prepared to change the colours anyway, because if this was a real lighting scenario, the lights would be changing colour all the time. So I've got some red gels that I can swap out for the blue gels halfway through if it's set. Let's try this without any smoke and see how it looks. Okay, here we go, Iffy. As you can see, there's still a little bit of smoke in the atmosphere, and that looks actually really good. So we're going to add a lot of smoke in here, which is going to make it tricky for you to see in the video, but it also makes it tricky for me as the photographer, because the smoke really does affect the exposure that I get from these lights. Now the big advantage is I'm using the Adorama R2 Pro trigger, which means that I can juggle the illumination just by pressing the buttons and quickly moving the dial around. So I'll need to be on my toes with this, but that's exactly how it would be if we were shooting a real live event. So let's get some smoke going, let's get Iffy going, let's take some pictures.
I know how show respect, that's all gone, you get no respect. No respect, that's all gone, you get no respect. Fell out with him and I fell out with her, gay supporting the thing in the hell out of her. Man ain't a beggar or a mug, I respected him once, but it's dead and it's done. Certain man got something to say, but certain man's not coming this way, and certain man think they run this dance, but when they touch Mike, all the punters dog. No respect, 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 no respect. I know how to show respect, that's all gone, you get no respect. No respect, that's all gone, you get no respect. I know how to show respect, that's all gone, you get no respect. No respect, no respect, no respect, no respect.
That went really well, and although the music is very different to what I would normally listen to in my studio, the end pictures speak for themselves. But of course there is a bit of Photoshop work to do, so let's have a little look. What I want to do is just tidy up some of the background. Now on the right hand side where the smoke was thickest, I can't really see any of the background light stands or anything back there at all, but on the left hand side I can clearly see this light stand, so I'm going to remove that using either the clone stamp tool or my favourite, the healing brush. Now the healing brush is great. All I need to do is hold the Alt key and sample a good area, and then I can just sort of paint over the top of the light stand and it sort of heals. It's really rather good. Now some areas need a little bit more work. It's always a good idea to move your sample point around when you're doing something like this so you can re-sample from different areas. That looks pretty good. And if you've got a really straight thing to do, then all you have to do is sample first, then click once, hold the Shift key, and when you click again, it'll draw a straight line between those 2 points. So that can make something like this much quicker to sort of heal. There we go, really quick. Now, what about the edge here where I can see the background a little more than I wanted to? Well, I like the fact that the smoke here covered it up. So the plan is really simple. I'm going to take one of the other pictures that's got smoke in, take the smoke from that, and fill in the gap. To do that, I'm actually going to take the very next shot, because the smoke changed that quickly. And all I need to do is just get my selection tool, drag out a rectangular marquee selection like that, and then I can go up to Edit and Copy. I'll go back to the other picture, choose Edit and Paste. Now that pastes it in, and I can get the Move tool and move it around, but it doesn't really work because it's back to front. The smoke is reversed. So I need to flip this whole image over, or at least the bit I've just pasted. And to do that, I go to Edit, Transform, Flip Horizontal. Now the positioning of this makes sense because I've got these lights here. I'd like them to be in the same place, and to make sure that they actually do make sense, I just drop the opacity down. I can see I've got one light and two lights, and if I sort of bullseye them together, something like that, that looks pretty good. And then I can bring the opacity back up again. Now there's a fairly obvious join going through here, so my last job is to remove that, and I can do it really easily because we've got this on layers. I can go back to layer. This time I'm going to choose layer mask, and I'm going to choose reveal all. That will put this white rectangle next to my layer. That's the layer mask. And all I need to do is get a paintbrush, make sure that my foreground color is the opposite of white, which is black, and then just paint down there. There you go. Look at that. It hides the join really quickly. Yes, I can still see little bits of the background, but I'm absolutely happy with that. And with a bit more finessing, there it is. There's my final picture completed. So despite its appearances, this mini music venue actually turned out really well, mostly thanks to the smoke machine. Now, if you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave me a comment below. And if you want to see more videos from myself and the other amazing presenters right here on Adorama TV, you know what you got to do. You got to click on that subscribe button. I'm Gavin Hoey. Thanks for watching.